Hello, English 110. Welcome back from spring break. I hope that you had some time in these last 2 weeks where you weren't completely piled up with work and that you were able to spend some time refueling, relaxing, and getting ready for the second half of the term. So I just want to check in with you really quickly to see what we'll be doing this week and kind of see what the rest of the term looks like. So I will try to make this as brief as possible, but there's a lot going on. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about are midterm conferences. The list is now available on the discussion board under conferences. It tells you what phone number to call if you have a phone conference with me, you are calling me. So you're going to call me on my phone and I will pick up, obviously, during your conference time. Conferences usually last about a half hour, depending on how much you want to talk about. But this is your time. I'm not going to ask you lots of questions. I am going to listen to what your concerns are. I'm going to hopefully steer you in the right direction about things that you're still confused about. We can look at an essay together, but it's your conference and you have to come ready to talk. If you don't have anything to talk about, then the conversation will be brief. But I think at this point in the class, there are a lot of things that we are working on and a lot of moving parts that I'm sure you need clarification on, and this is your chance to get clarification directly from me. So just make sure you either come to my office in 122 if it's a conference where you're coming to campus, or that you call, and you can find that list on the discussion board. And I really look forward to checking in with you each individually. It gives me a really good sense of kind of, oh wow, I didn't know that was so confusing. Let me clarify that, not just for you, but for the rest of the class. It gives me some sense of what's working really well in the class for you, and then that sometimes means that it's working well for everyone. So it gives me a really good idea of how the class is going so far, and hopefully helps you as you progress toward the rest of the essays that we write, that we can maybe clarify some things before that. So midterm conferences. We will be moving on to Essay 3 this week in research. And Essay 3 is about if side 1, after we've looked at the arguments from both sides, right, which is what we did in Essay 2, which I'll have a chance to look at this week. Essay 3 asks the question, if side 1 gets what they want, what are the consequences? So if we're talking about, really briefly, vaccinations in America, okay, if we stop vaccinating children in America, what is going to happen? And then the other side of that is if we continue to vaccinate at the level that we're vaccinating, what's going to happen? And consequences has a negative connotation, but consequences just means results, right? So it can be negative or positive consequences. And that's what we're going to start to look at. But more importantly, this week is about navigating 2 of the more difficult databases that you'll use while you're at college. One is ProQuest Central, and one is Academic Search Premier. Students struggle with these databases all the way through to my upper level English and other courses at the college. It's because what you're dealing with now is not just really clear counterpoint and points. You're not having just your basic information about things like we did in Credo and CQ Researcher. We're not getting overviews. We're getting actual scholarly work about your topic. And what that means is that people have been researching and discussing and analyzing your topic for years. They've created, some of them created their whole lives around talking about vaccinations in America, for instance. So, and they are experts in that field of study, and they write as scholars and experts. So the articles you get from ProQuest Central and Academic Search Premier are going to be a lot more dense. They're going to be longer. They're going to have a lot of terminology you don't understand, and we have to, in College Comp 1, start to navigate that type of material. It's also 2 databases that are just rich with a lot of material that will be helpful to you. So if we can just get past sort of the fear of navigating these 2, you're going to find that they're very good resources later on. So your research exercise this week sends you to both ProQuest and Academic Search Premier. And I expect you to be a little bit frustrated with these. These are not easy databases, and that's why we've saved them sort of for the second half of the semester. We're gonna work through it and get better at it. So don't get overly frustrated, but know that these aren't the easiest. You're not gonna have your answer right away like you've had on other databases. So your research exercise is due. We'll also be peer reviewing Essay 2. And Essay 2, remember, was about the same topic. We're gonna be writing on this topic the entire term. And what we asked is, you've now presented a conflict, and oftentimes that next question is, okay, so there's these two people arguing about one thing. What are their best points? So part of this essay 2 was about, here are the major arguments from side 1 and side 2. So if we said, why shouldn't we vaccinate our children? Side 1 would say these two major things. Side 2, why should we continue to vaccinate our children? What are their two best arguments? But the beginning of the essay, remember, it's a compare contrast. So there are things that these two sides agree on, and sometimes that's the hardest thing to nail down. So I asked you before you started to contrast and talk about the major arguments, I said, what do they agree on? Do they agree on anything? And you'll find that sides often do have things they agree on. They don't want disease to be rampant in the world, okay? So people who want to vaccinate and not want to vaccinate, who want to and do not want to, they agree that there's something has to be done to keep disease from spreading. I would say that's something they agree on. So if you didn't write that into essay 2, remember in your revision that I'm going to ask you that question, that first body paragraph or 2 should be about, okay, they do see eye to eye on certain things. And then the rest of the essay was built around, okay, and these are the things they definitely don't agree on. So what are the major arguments from each side? As I looked at essay 1 revisions, students that did well in essay 1, and grades are, I'm almost completely through all of them, and grades are posted under my grades. And I didn't do a whole document where I wrote in the margins. I just gave you some general comments on your grade in my grades. So essay 1, what I was finding is that students that paid attention to their MLA and paid attention to paragraph building did really well in their revisions on essay 1. Okay, and that means you were being thoughtful about how you used your parenthetical citations and where your quotation marks were, and that you either used the MLA guide or Al Purdue to help you with your in-text citations, and that you were also building really good paragraphs. And by paragraphs, I mean you had a topic sentence that clearly related back to your thesis statement, which was, what is the conflict? You had 2 citations per paragraph. Between those citations, you analyzed the information you gave in your own words. You didn't leave any of your paragraphs on a quote. You summed up what you said in that paragraph and you moved on to the next one. You stopped being persuasive and you started being more informative, so that it showed that you understood that the essay was an informative essay and it was about telling us as much about the conflict as possible. But as you look at those grades, know that those are the major things I was looking at. You understood what the thesis statement was about, and that was about saying the conflict of my topic is that you were using in-text citations correctly and that you were building strong paragraphs. Those are the things that I looked at. If you want any further guidance on essay 1, or if you want to revise it, I will accept another revision of essay 1. You got a grade from 0 to 100 on it. And if you want to do better on that essay, you have 2 weeks. You just have to submit it to my email, because there won't be another place to submit it on Blackboard. You need to let me know it's a revision, and it really should show some change. And you will get, I will regrade it as a new draft. So I don't take the average. Like if you got a 70 and you really turned it in a paper that was an 80 this time, you'll get the 80. So there's not an average, but it really should show some strong improvement in those areas, whether it's thesis development, paragraph building, or MLA. Most likely is what happened on your revision of essay 1 that might need more work. You absolutely have to know how to do in-text citations by the time you leave English 110, and that's why I'm such a stickler about it on your essays. And I'll correct it till I'm blue in the face, but if your in-text citations are not correct, you will not pass the class. So that's why I spend a lot of time on it. Same with paragraph building. Same with understanding that each of your paragraphs really needs to be a unit in and of itself, and that you're spending a lot of time making sure that those are as developed as they possibly can. So anyways, that's essay 1. So for essay 2, I've not given you peers this time around, because I found that got really confusing last time. If your peer hadn't posted, it set you back. So you can choose any 2 essays to review this week on the peer review for essay 2. The essay 2 guide is very similar. I just asked slightly different questions because it's a different essay. So I'm looking for different components of it. As I said in my announcement this week, your essay 1 peer reviews were really good. It's really a diagnosis of your peer's essay to make sure you understand what's supposed to be in an essay and you help them understand it as well. And you guys did a really good job with that. So I'm about to run out of time on this video, but I will be right back to finish up, okay? I'll be right back.